Fight Mike here. Today we're going to be going through the top 10 best wrestlers in the UFC. They're going to be on the current roster and currently competing in MMA. And this is not like a stat-related list, as wrestling stats don't really show how good of a wrestler you actually are. And this is not taking into account their wrestling credentials, where like a Bo Nickel or a Henry Cejudo would be number one. This is how their wrestling competes against other people in MMA and how they incorporate it into MMA, not how they would do in like a wrestling competition. Let's jump into the first of two honorable mentions. I have got Jailton Almeida as the first honorable mention. He's a really good wrestler. He can definitely move up into the list as he gets more experience in the UFC. He's out-grappled some really good grapplers like a Sergey Spivak, Romanov, and he out-wrestled Curtis Blades for the first round of their fight before getting TKO'd. He's really dominant when he gets on top. He's really difficult to get you off him. So he's really good with his top control, and his positional dominance is really good. And once Jailton gets you down, people don't usually get up. I couldn't put him any higher though. Couldn't put him in the top 10 as he hasn't fought very good competition. And I feel like half of these heavyweights are built like the Michelin Man, so they're very easily toppled over. Moving on to the second honorable mention, we have got Shavkat Rakhmonov. I feel a lot of people might disagree with this one, saying that Shavkat should be much higher. He is a really good wrestler though, and his versatility in his takedowns is really good. He likes to get him in every single way, but favors like the Greco-Roman style takedowns. His positional dominance once he gets you on the ground is really good. His cage wrestling is next to none, and he doesn't really get taken down himself. I just couldn't really put him in that top 15 again, as these guys that he's out-wrestled aren't as good wrestlers, and these other guys that are in this top 10 list have all out-wrestled some pretty good wrestlers, and they've shown the ability to scramble, where Shavkat hasn't really had to display that throughout any of his fights. We've also not seen Shavkat fight like a straight wrestler-on-wrestler matchup, but if he out-wrestles like a Belal Muhammad, he could definitely jump back up on this list. Moving on to the number 10 spot, we've got Movsar Evloev. I feel like this is the perfect entrance into the top 10. Someone who's like an overall really great wrestler. He's shown it against a lot of top-level opponents, such as like Aljamain Sterling, Diego Lopez, Arnold Allen, Dan Ige. His top control is really good and really strong, and his technique when grappling is just elite. In his fight against Aljo, it forced Aljo to do a lot of strength-based takedowns since he was so technically savvy in their fight. And he is very relentless with his grappling pressure. He's really good in scrambles and almost always wins the scrambles. He's very smart when grappling. He uses his timing and clinch really well to get easier takedowns, rather than muscling through a blast double leg or doing like what's in the middle of the screen here with Aljamain Sterling just lifting up Movsar Evloev in a very strength-based movement. He's overall a really good wrestler. His wrist control is next to none, and his mat returns are really good. And I just couldn't put him any higher just because he gets caught in bad position when his takedowns get stuffed. And often he's not as good on the re-entry as he is on his initial entry. And even though he out-grappled Aljo, it was such a close fight. Like, if Aljo wins one more grappling position in that fight, then he would have won that. But if Movsar can out-grapple a guy like Volk, he will shoot up 3 to 4 spots on this list easily. Moving on to the number 9 spot, we've got Kamaru Usman. This is actually sort of why I wanted to make this list, because I've seen a lot of the people online after seeing his win against Joaquin Buckley. They're saying that he's the best wrestler in the UFC, which at one point he definitely could have been close, but he's just not there at the moment. If you'd made this list in 2020, I probably would have put him in the top 3, but as of now, I still see that his wrestling is regressing a little bit fight to fight. His main strength with his takedowns is his timing. His timing is next to none on his takedowns. We could see even in the Joaquin Buckley fight, his double leg timing was perfect. And he hit that beautiful cross-face single leg in that Buckley fight a couple of times with perfect timing. He's really good once he gets you to the ground at keeping you there because he scoops up the legs really well. And he makes sure to spend the first 15 seconds of taking you down, making sure that you're stuck there. He doesn't rush the positions at all. And he forces sort of like a technical get up once he actually gets you down from forcing you into side control. He doesn't go into the other way around. When he takes you down, he likes to work out of half guard. Instead of passing to side control where you can sort of explode upwards, he forces you to do a technical stand-up, which I think is a really, really nice thing that he does. He's got some unreal takedown defense. If your name's not Khamzat Chimaev, he will not get taken down by anyone who's not Khamzat. And at this point, I just couldn't put him any higher in his career, as his takedowns aren't as versatile as some of the people above. He is super effective, but he goes for similar style takedowns, and he goes for a lot less Greco-style takedowns than he used to. And he also is a little bit less explosive. He used to be able to shoot from halfway across the cage and cover the distance really quickly. But now he has to work his way in a little bit more and shoot a little bit more nakedly from further out. But if he out-wrestles someone to get into a title fight, or he out-wrestles JDM in the title fight, I could see him moving up a position or two. Moving on to the number 8 position, we've got Belal Muhammad. I can already hear the comments roasting me for putting Belal in there, especially above Kamaru Usman, because they'll be like, oh, Joaquin Buckley got out-wrestled by Usman. Belal couldn't even out-wrestle JDM. That's not specifically true. I think, obviously, Belal didn't out-wrestle JDM, otherwise he would have the win. But I think that it's the difference in well-roundedness in the takedowns why Belal Muhammad has to be on this list. And people just say his takedowns are terrible because he didn't land the ones on JDM. But if you look at a lot of his takedowns, they're very well-rounded. His timing is usually impeccable. Like, if you put someone that isn't JDM in there, their takedowns are always hitting. And his systems of what takedowns he goes for and what position of the cage is really interesting. Like, usually if you get someone against the cage, you'll shoot in and you'll be able to use the cage to just lift. Well, you'll be able to use the cage to take them down, maybe go for a foot sweep or so. But Belal uses that position to get his hands locked, which is really interesting. He's got really versatile style takedowns, and since he didn't do wrestling before getting into MMA, he sort of has MMA wrestling down to a T. He has really good control once he takes you down. He commits a lot further as well than Kamaru Usman once he gets that takedown. And once he decides to go for a takedown, he shoots really deep. So he'll instantly go to get his hands locked. And once his hands are locked, he's trying to throw you straight away. There's no wasted movements in there. He's really calm in grappling exchanges as well. And if his initial shot doesn't work, he'll always reset and try to shoot somewhat soon after then. And you will usually get that. And he doesn't get disheartened by his wrestling as much. And his takedown defense is literally unreal. I just couldn't put him any higher because his opponents are able to get up quite quickly sometimes, and he's able to get his position reversed, and he's not the most dominant once he gets you to the mat. Moving on to the number 7 position, I've got Arman Tsarukyan. I had a massive toss-up over where to put Arman and the person above him. Ultimately, I think Arman definitely should be on the list. He's got really explosive takedowns. He's tested his takedowns against some really good grapplers like Islam, Gamrot, and Charles Oliveira. And he showed in the Gamrot and Islam fights that he was able to scramble really well and continually scramble, not giving up too many dominant positions and being able to get up off bottom really well. He showed some really good timing on his takedowns against a guy like Joel Alvarez. And I had to put him above Belal and Usman because of his ability to push for a takedown more than they have. If you see Belal or Usman miss 2 takedowns in a round, they're less inclined to shoot again. Whereas Arman will shoot 5 takedowns a round and will usually get 1 or 2 of them. And his positioning in wrestling scrambles is really good. You barely see his back get taken. And I just couldn't put him higher than the people above him as they have either out-grappled him themselves or they have out-grappled a lot of people who are slightly better than the people Arman were able to. Moving on to the number 6 spot, sorry, I'm having an aneurysm, is Anthony Hernandez. To be fair, I find it pretty crazy that Anthony and Belal got into this list without wrestling in high school or college that much. And much like Belal, I think it helps Anthony in his wrestling because he's got such a perfect mixed martial arts style takedown. His timing's really good on the takedowns. He doesn't use much energy when going for a takedown. And he's so relentless when he's trying to wrestle. Even if you are able to stuff the initial shot, he will reshoot straight after. It's not a guy where he needs to reshoot. He needs to reset before he reshoots. He'll reshoot straight away, and he'll make you go through like your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th phase of takedown defense. He's not only relentless once he gets you to the mat as well. He's so relentless at mat returning and just grinding you against the cage, making your life hell. He does some of his best work out of that crossbody position, riding out those positions, using wrist control to stay on top, and using it to change positions, end up in mount, end up in back control. And To be honest, I could see him in the near future moving to that top 5, top 3 area, but just at the moment, because he hasn't fought that elite style wrestler, I'll have to put him in that number 6 position. Moving into number 5, we've got Mateusz Gamrot. I'm sure some of you are so confused why Gamrot is so high on the list, but in my opinion, his wrestling is really high level. He loves working from the body lock. He rolls really well once his position is compromised. Like, you won't see him get dominated for long. He'll always be going for a Granby roll or any other type of roll. His chain wrestling is next to none. His reshots are even better than his initial shot. And his scramble ability is literally next to none. If you don't have really like elite level submission offense like a Dariush had against him, Gamrot will consistently scramble you to top position. He won't accept being on bottom at all, and he will always make sure that he's tiring you out, making you work, making you carry his weight. And he's just like a wrestling juggernaut with offense. He does not stop at all. I think he could get moved up on this list if he can improve his positional dominance, but his mat returns and keeping a hold of you within those positions and winning them makes that not really matter as much. I just couldn't put him as far ahead as he hasn't out-wrestled the same opponents as the people who are above him in the top 5. And I just think that if he's to move up to that top 5, he has to out-wrestle a guy who, like an Ilya Topuria, who's got really high-level wrestling. Moving on to number 4, we have got Merab Dvalishvili. I can already hear the people saying in the comments that Merab's takedowns are terrible and his wrestling sucks. It's only because of EPO that he wins scrambles. Whilst that partially is true, his wrestling technique is actually elite. He's probably one of the most elite takedown artists in the sport. And the way that he combines like his trips with his wall wrestling and then goes to a double leg, like he switches up his takedowns beautifully. And he uses different style takedowns to make sure that he finishes that takedown. Sorry, I've hiccuped twice. He has a really well-timed single leg and a double leg, and he can make both of them look like his overhand. And his freestyle wrestling is really good to watch. He's easily one of the most relentless wrestlers in the UFC's history. And a lot of people will take his failed takedown attempts into account into how good his wrestling is, but you can see when he fails a takedown, he sort of bails on it very early, so it's sort of not even a real takedown attempts because he's not always driving through them. But I just couldn't put him into the top 3 as he's not as positionally dominant as the people above him. But he definitely has the capacity to move through. He has out-wrestled some amazing wrestlers like an Umar Nurmagomedov or a Henry Cejudo or someone like that. Like, all of these guys are really good wrestlers, so it's impressive that he was able to out-wrestle them himself. But moving on to number 3, we've got Jon Jones. I had to put him in the top 3 just because he's always shown a very high level of wrestling. Whenever he wants an opponent on the floor, he will get them to the floor. And his background in Greco sort of helped him develop the perfect style of wrestling in MMA. Across all of his UFC fights, he's only been taken down twice ever, which is a massive feat when you've got the amount of high-level fights that he does. And he has out-wrestled or negated the wrestling of guys like DC, Stipe, Chael, all of these guys with really elite wrestling. He's just negated their wrestling and been able to take down all of them. He's never been a guy that has to work hard for his takedowns. Like, if you remember Jon Jones shooting for a takedown, it's not like you can imagine Gamrot on a single leg, like pushing really hard, getting sprawled on hard. You can't think of a position when Jon Jones was put like that. So he's never really had to work hard for his takedowns. He will always go for them when the timing is perfect and using very little effort to get to them. And he always likes to get a trip in the clinch, using not too much effort again. It's sort of weird to put him on this list, though, because if you watch his actual single and double legs, they're really slow because of the height of him. But that's why he doesn't really shoot those conventional single and double legs often. But when he does, he makes sure that you're throwing at the same time, using the perfect timing to make sure that he doesn't have to shoot a really fast takedown to be able to get you down. He's got really elite positional dominance. Once he sticks you to the floor, you're often stuck there for the rest of the round. And I could see him moving up, but I don't think I could put him higher than the next 2 as they're just a bit more effective with their wrestling. Moving on to the number 2, though, we've got Islam Makhachev. I can already hear someone from Dagestan screaming in the comments and just bashing their mum over this prediction, or not this prediction, but this this position that I put Islam in, but Islam's an amazing wrestler. He's almost the perfect wrestler. He's got a really wide variety of takedowns. They barely ever get stuffed. His control on the cage is really good, and his shots on the cage are beautiful. And the likelihood that you stuff his takedowns is literally so low. But anyone he faces, he ends up out wrestling. His top control is one of the best of all time. And in the first 2 rounds, when you're not as sweaty, you really can't stuff his takedowns. He could be pound for pound one of the strongest guys in the clinch. He seems to be like glue on the feet. And he's so good at switching his takedowns halfway through and ensuring that it gets executed correctly. I just couldn't put him in the number 1 as he's not the most dominant wrestler. And he does favor judo throws a lot more than wrestling takedowns. Moving on to the number 1 guy, I'm sure you've guessed it by now. We have Khamzat Chimaev. It was a really big toss-up for me whether I put Khamzat or Islam first. But it really did come down to the fact that Islam does more judo takedowns as opposed to Khamzat constantly going for the wrestling takedowns. Khamzat seems to be the only guy on this list, and why he's on the top of this list. That once he gets his hands locked, there's no escaping that takedown. And the thing is that once he gets his hands locked, it's impossible to shake him off him. No matter how many rolls you do, no matter how many times you try to break the grips, those grips aren't breaking. People say his cardio is really bad, yet he was still able to get a guy like Kamaru Usman, who I still think has some of the most elite takedown defense down in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. And his transitions are so fast. He must have a grip like a vice. And it's almost like he's racing you to the submission. Like he's so good at transitioning and wrestling positions that he's literally racing you to get to the end goal or the end position. And he's the type of guy that I could see him getting never taken down throughout his entire career. So far, he's never been taken down. And even then, I think he's probably never going to. I think another reason why he has to be on the top of this list is that whenever Khamzat grabs you, it's sort of like he's deciding where the fight goes. So ultimately, he definitely has to be on the top of this list. Let me know what you think of my top 10. What would your top 3 be? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, like and subscribe and leave a comment. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.